I don't really understand why it is that secularists are always telling me that Christians aren't going to be able to decide what laws to have or not have because there's different denominations. At our founding, right, all of the states had a state religion. Every single state had a state religion and had them passed the Constitution via the 10th Amendment, for instance. Salt Lake City right now is run by Mormons. The whole fucking state is run by Mormons. The entire legislature is legislated by Mormons. We seem to get along with Salt Lake City we seem to get along, in fact, with Utah in the union just fine. The idea that Christians are not going to be able to work together along the shared ethical system is fucking bizarre to me because I don't see any other political persuasion who has this problem when it comes to governing and compromising governing. I don't see it.
Okay, I would say the bane of every political coalition is the inability to keep its members together. That's like definitionally the biggest problem.
Yeah,
but the left eats itself is kind of the classic example.
Yeah, but then they also get people elected, don't they?
Yeah, sure. That's not.
So I mean, so the thing is like, look, I think that most of the denominations of Christians who follow the Nicene Creed where they believe in Trinity, things like this,
Sola Scriptura, just read the Bible. It's fine.
No,
right?
They wouldn't agree on the theology. But the base universal ethics of the 10 Commandments and most of the teachings of Jesus Christ, I think that they have a lot more in common there than they do with any other archetypical ideology politically. So I don't really see why they could not govern even with different denominations. We did it before.
Okay, I'll say three things. Number one, as you know, I very much enjoy exploiting divisions within the right and within the left because I find that to be the areas of most interest and where truth is to be found. And I think it's important to, articulate, hey, I'm against blasphemy laws, or you support them. It's good to know that. Second.
Well, you support them too. Just saying.
All in
it
moderation.
Just depends on if it's on the micro or the macro,
All in moderation. All in moderation. Okay. It depends what you mean by blasphemy. Mm-hmm. You said, you're like, I don't understand why people don't think Christians of the same denomination who believe in the Nicene Creed could get together. Well, the entire history of Europe post 30 AD, more post like 800 AD, is a lot of killing each other, certainly post Reformation.
Yeah, so it's the 20th century.
Correct. Yeah.
But so what? That had nothing to do with religion at all. Nothing to do with religion at all. Communism was completely antithetical to religion, in fact.
Hold on. I think it's the 40 Years' War. I could be wrong. It was between the Protestants and Catholics. That was St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. Was I think 10,000 Catholics were massacred.
Yeah, but I mean the historical record were not over Christianity.
The historical record very clearly demonstrates that Protestants and Catholics and Eastern Orthodox can very well not get along.
Yeah,
that is a real threat.
But here's the problem that you have here. We can judge history based on how long the historic standard has existed. And we can see that with Christian nations are mostly peaceful. Secular nations are fucking not peaceful. The entire historic standard of secular nations have been that they are the least peaceful nations which have ever fucking existed on planet Earth. All of them.
I don't know if that's true.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me something. Do you think?
I don't know.
That when you talk about the United States, as it became more secular, do you think it became less warmongery?
No, I think the neocons took over. But when
the communists took over, do you think that the secular communists were less likely to kill people than the Orthodox czars, or more likely to kill people?
The other reason I think this is of note is because earlier in this conversation, you said in a few years, the Eastern Orthodox Church is going to be attacked by Protestants,
politically,
by Catholics.
Yeah.
But the attack will come under the guise of theological. Oh, these are heretics, or these are blasphemers. Correct?
No. Listen. Right now, there exists a country called Finland. You've heard of Finland? Can you Google what the two state churches of Finland are?
I could.
Do it.
You could just tell me.
No, Google it.
I don't want to. I don't take orders.
Fucking Google it.
I don't take orders.
No, you're not going to Google it?
Yeah, because I think if I did, you would lose respect for me because you'd be like, wow, PFing's a little bitch. I just told him what to do.
Well, here we go. I'll pull it up so I don't miss.
Fuck it up. So you
the evangelical Lutheran.
Tell me then, and then tell me what
the evangelical Lutheran Church, and the Orthodox Church.
Good for them.
Now, the thing that's interesting about this, you know that they can assess and collect taxes and due on behalf of the government.
Great. Sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
so they can assess taxes. They can literally assess taxes, and they have tons of political claim. Now, how could it be that evangelical Lutherans and Orthodox both have these giant churches and giant bodies and somehow are able to get along and govern?
I can't wait. I can't wait until the gay female pastors of the Methodist Church get half of the country in Christian Nationalist Empire. They're Christian. They call themselves Christian.
No, listen, here's what happens. NGOs will come in and pervert churches and denominations, but they fall. They fall within 20 years. They just people just flee from them.
Okay, hopefully.
The only reason the Orthodox are growing in the United States and the Catholics is because of this very phenomenon you're talking about. When wokeism goes into the church,
it's a reaction.
Yeah, it's reactionary. When wokeism goes into these churches, they flee, and they flee for the more traditional churches. That's always going to be the case. So the idea that you think that it's impossible for Christians to govern, even if they're in different denominations, there's proofs right now I can point to where that's not the case.
I don't think it's impossible. I'm saying I think that is the biggest challenge. Aside from,
I mean, governing it, that's every political ideology or persuasion. The biggest challenge, though, is having joint governance.
Correct. But what I'm pointing is when people talk about Christian nationalism, they make it sound like it's cohesive.
It is cohesive. It's as cohesive as any other political ideology I can think of.
Okay, even the word Christian, the gay female pastors call themselves Christian.
Yeah, and that's and communists call themselves progressives. You know, it's like, and I've heard communists call themselves centrists. Right. It's like,
no, there's no communists who call themselves centrist. I would make the exact same criticism of the progressive left. Hey guys, you say you're progressive, you say you're for class politics. So it's just a no true Scotsman fallacy for all political ideologies. It's like nobody's really that thing. Everyone's just LARPing, bro. It's just a no true Scotsman for all political ideologies. That's really P.F. Young's opinion? No, I think this is your opinion.
How is it wait,
Are female gay pastors actually Christian, even if they call themselves Christian?
No.
Oh, it's a no true Scotsman fallacy?
No, because there's specific criteria what a Christian is.
Oh, that's what every Scotsman would say about what makes a Scotsman.
Nope, that's not the case. And here's why. If that is the case, if you actually believe that that's how the fallacy works, then you can't adjudicate any political system for anybody ever. You can't adjudicate police officers or judges or anything else, because anybody who said, well, I'm in the form of policing, you can say you're not a real police officer because I'm appealing to some authority to what a police officer is. Does that sound correct to you?
I don't use the word no true Scotsman. In fact, you brought it up.
Yeah. So if the idea here is like, what makes a cop a cop? What makes a police officer a police officer?
This is what. All right. How about this?
Answer the fucking question. Don't evade. What makes a police officer a police officer?
If he hates black people.
Oh yeah, you're not going to answer, right?
Sorry. I was watching a lot of progressive content.
The thing is like, if it is the case, you're saying you can't appeal to the authority which says that's a police officer, right? Then there's no real police officers. They just don't exist.
All right, here we're totally. I don't even. This is fine. We're here. We are here where we are. I go, as you know, I go with the flow. I'm deeply enlightened. I'm
glad we live in a world with no cops, bro.
What makes one an entertainer, Andrew?
What makes one an entertainer? I would say.
Is there such a thing as an entertainer?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is my point, right? So there would have to be some specific criteria or definition that we can point to, that there would be some kind of agreement that definition was pointing to the thing we were talking about, just like with man or woman or anything else, right? Otherwise, it's an empty label. So you can't say an entertainer is an empty label, because an entertainer, right, one who entertains, would have specific criteria. So we pull up the definition, for instance, entertainer. Let's see what it points to.
Appeal to the Bible. That's the
person whose profession is to provide
entertainment.
Yeah, entertainment for others, whether it's through music, comedy, acting, magic, dance, other forms of performance. So we have specific criteria for what constitutes an entertainer. I would say law enforcement, we do the same thing, right? One who enforces the laws of the nation, does X, Y, Z. For some reason, though, Christians can't have that. That's weird. Like everything, every other thing can be classified, just not this thing, PF. It's the only thing that can't be.
I would like to change the topic. I appear to be losing this argument, so I'd like to change the topic.
Yeah.
Look, as long as I don't ever see you coming out saying we're for national blasphemy laws, you're not allowed to swear on Twitter. Aren't there Christians that say like swearing is unholy?
Yeah.
Fuck them, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is like ultimately, though, these are not the when we look if we want to look at a movement for populism, right? Christian populism is a much more adequate kind of nomenclature than Christian nationalism.
Okay.
So populism itself is taking a look at what kind of the viewpoints, the popular viewpoints of the people groups themselves are, and they're riding on those things in order to move themselves into power, right? So Christian populism is not really any different than that. What they're looking at is they're looking at degeneracy and decadence, and they're trying to make a correction for that. They don't seem to be moving in the idea of trying to make complete overhaul changes to ideas of constitutionality like the Second Amendment or the First Amendment or things like this, but rather moving within the confines in order to eliminate decadence itself.
I hope you're correct. And I would
show me in any of these Christian nationalist populist movements where that's not the case.
The author of The Case for Christian Nationalism, Stephen Wolfe, said he supports blasphemy laws.
Yeah, I understand that one guy said that, but I'm talking about movements themselves.
Fine. I don't think he's as inconsequential a figure as you make him out to be.
I'm not saying he's inconsequential. I'm just saying he's not a member of a movement.
Betting on it right now, what day is today? May 12th. I suspect Stephen Wolfe will end up on Tucker Carlson by the end of the year.
Probably.
Andrew Isker was already on.
Yeah, but when you're talking about populism itself, right? What is the populist kind of idea behind Christian nationalism? It's these, here's kind of the pillars. The pillars are like, it's a traditionalism, anti-wokeism, one family household promotion, right? The idea of mommy, daddy being at home with kids, right? No alternative lifestyle units, anti-abortion, right? Things like this. It's the degeneracy and decadence which seems to be targeted, not the ideas of speech itself, which seems to be a thing which is far less consequential. And here's some examples of why. I go back and listen to fucking 1970s, 60s music. It was pretty fucking decadent, okay? It was pretty bad. A lot of that music, not so fucking great, ultimately.
You mean like the music itself or the lyrics?
The lyrics.
We're
talking
about
the music's badass, yeah, but degenerate shit, right?
Yeah,
same thing with country music. Like old country music, the lyrics are pretty fucking degenerate, okay? But I don't think that that stuff was really leading people towards the primrose path of degeneracy any more than I think that the degeneracy going on in black communities is because of gangsta rap. It's just not. There's tons of pretty straight-laced guys listening to fucking gangsta rap. But you remove the father from the household, and that's where everything seems to go fucking awry for all of these groups, doesn't it? Like agree. Almost immediately.
I would agree.
So I'm not sure that, Christians are really going to be tangling too much over the First Amendment anytime soon. And if it is the case that in 40 years they are, it's because the popular groundswell of people want that. And if that's the case and you believe in democracy, then you can't even fucking argue with that anyway.